tell me, what did the first 1 to 2 years look like? So obviously we are a really new brand. So I imagine there's some amazing highs and some amazing lows. In terms of like your typical day, what has it been a typical day?
Yeah, I mean, the first year we were juggling our full-time jobs with Sky on ASOS. And the typical day, honestly, like I like the best way to describe when you're launching a startup is you're doing a lot of firefighting. It's a hugely glamorized space. And I always say, like, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. Everything takes twice as long as you think and costs twice as much. And nobody really has a huge amount of loyalty to you when you're a small brand. So you really can't rely on kind of like larger suppliers and things like that coming through. So I think a huge part of the first year was just accepting that our proposition was going to constantly be evolving. So when we first launched, it was with our spicy margarita, and we thought, okay, cool, like we're just going to sell our products on e-commerce. And then our proposition evolved, and we were like, no, we need to get brand awareness. So we started activating at a lot of trade shows. So whether it was kind of like BBC Good Food Show or Hampton Court, we needed to start getting like real life feedback from consumers trying our product, testing our price point. And I feel like people don't value the importance in that, because ultimately, like, these are going to be the people who are repeat purchasing. If you're not at the right price point, if you're not packaging it in the right way, like, your business won't take off. And these are going to be the people who are kind of like spreading you by word of mouth. So the first couple of months was definitely a lot of trade shows. We did our first event 6 months post launch. And I think this was a really, really defining moment for us. And it took a lot of our time. We actually mentioned Big Feastable earlier. I think this was probably one of the most defining moments for us as a brand, because we got invited to pitch a 13 meter by 13 meter bar at the Big Feastable for 50,000 people. And this was a really fantastic opportunity for us to showcase proof of concept, because ultimately you can't get into any retailers or distributors until you've got a little bit of commercial trading history. You show that you've got a product that people like. And we thought, okay, if we can pull this off, not only can we showcase that we're an experience-led brand, that 50,000 people like our products, but we've also kind of got a bit of a commercial business model that we can replicate and be like, we can actually drive revenue if we attend multiple events like this. So there were a lot of ticks, but the kind of work to get there was absolutely insane. And this is like some of our biggest horror stories to date. But to pitch at some of these events, you typically have to put down a pitch fee, which is anywhere between £10,000 to £25,000. And then you'll run a bar and you'll retain all of the revenue. So we did all of the commercials. We understood how much stock that we would need, which we package all of our cocktails in kegs so we can serve them on draft, which was fantastic. It means that you can speed of serve. You can serve cocktails in 3 seconds. And we literally planned from scratch how we would build a bar using really rustic woodenals, how we could get these keg machines and these units to work symbiotically so we could serve customers. How could we build this really kind of tropical Tulum-esque boho vibe with a DJ and a kids colouring area? And this was literally what all of our time was for probably about 3 months. And it was literally understanding the crux of running our own bar, which to this day is now one of the kind of key revenue generators of business at this point in time. So the days would be spent kind of speaking to people who had expertise in the bar industry, ordering ingredients, making sure we had vans that would drive us like back and forth, staff for our bars, which were often our friends. But hopefully that gives a little bit of a spotlight into how kind of like quickly our day to day and what we do changes, because it's just the two of us. If we've got an event, all of our attention will be towards the activation side of things. If we're doing a huge sales push, we need to be speaking to kind of buyers and activating at kind of F&B trade shows like Imbibe and how we're going to kind of manage that. So it's super diverse and it's super dependent on what season it is and what our priorities are and things like that.
Yeah. And just on the first couple of years, I think one of the biggest things was we really didn't have much budget. From when we launched, we had spent all of our money up to that point on production and getting the products out there. So we really had to get creative with anything we were doing to build our community. When we launched with an influencer campaign on no spend at all. So we handmade kind of really beautiful gift hampers, hand delivered them to about 30 influencers. and that generated all of our revenue in the first couple of months. I think we did about 500 sales. And then the second thing we managed to do in terms of getting our brand out there on not a lot of spend is partnering with some of the most up and coming brands of that moment. So there was Thursday Dating, Mob Kitchen, Wild, using them to work together, find a kind of collabed angle on either product launches or some activity on trading moments. And that really accelerated our growth because we were able to tap into their consumers and their audiences who we knew were of a similar caliber and shared similar values, that sort of thing. So that really, really helped us in terms of getting the brand name out there and building our community.
But yeah, it was a bootstrapping activity for the first 1 to 2 years because we had to kind of put our attention onto those opportunities that would obviously grow the business, but also that would bring revenue back into the business. So yeah, the first 2 years was pretty chaotic in terms of diversity and focuses and priorities and things like that.
Well, that's one of the questions actually I was going to ask is about, did you get any investment at all to help you, or any business coaching as well to help you along the way? Because obviously you both have got your heads completely screwed on in terms of business, but entrepreneurship is such a roller coaster, isn't it? And you can be pulled in so many different directions. And I know I personally struggle with the shiny object syndrome of what I could be doing and where I can be spending my time. So kind of how did you, well, both questions about investment, you don't need to answer that, but feel free if you do want to answer it. And business coaching, did you access any of those kind of resources?
So in terms of investment, we actually put all of our own savings into launching the business, and it was actually a blessing in disguise that we launched during lockdown because we put all of our paychecks towards growing the business. So up until last December, we didn't secure any outside investment other than kind of ourselves and friends and family. But we've just closed an investment round now, which is super, super exciting. And actually allows us to be less scrappy, which is fantastic. In terms of business coaching and mentoring, we didn't have any business coaches, but we've been so lucky because we've had such a fantastic community of founders who are so forthcoming with advice, with contacts, with introductions. And honestly, without that, it would be an absolute different ball game. And I think what's really interesting is speaking to the industry experts who have been there for a very long time hasn't been as valuable as speaking to the kind of the new founders, because the alcohol industry as a whole, I would say, is quite archaic in terms of how it operates. So us speaking to founders, whether it kind of be in food or just beverage as well, like their insights are so valuable in terms of you just need to get the product out there, whether it be like small markets, you just need to be very unconventional. How can you make the most noise with the least resource? Those kinds of nuggets of advice are so valuable because when you're speaking to someone who's been, I don't know, working at a Pernod Ricard or a Diageo, they're out there on how a corporate infrastructure operates. It's very different to how a business that has a couple of £100 to kind of see them through every month with a very like low burn rate. So whilst we didn't have any business coaching, it was just speaking to all of the founders who had launched brands, successful or not, because it's equally as important to know what went wrong as well as what went well, and just save ourselves time and not make the same mistakes and not use suppliers who have really like long payment terms, and just like small little like niche pieces of information like that have been the most valuable.
Oh, thank you both for that. So I'm going to ask a question. What do you enjoy most about entrepreneurship? As you mentioned earlier, entrepreneurship is glamorized. There's a definite highs, definite lows. So what do you most enjoy about entrepreneurship?
I think I most enjoy the kind of creativity and flexibility and where you can take your brand. The ideas are endless, especially for a drinks brand. It's so versatile in who you can partner with or how you can activate. And especially as a marketeer, it's a very exciting product to work with in terms of, I think also coming from a corporate world, there's a lot of red tape around what you can do and you've got to go through all the hierarchies to get it signed off. But yeah, the flexibility and being creative, running with your ideas and shooting for the stars when you think outside the box. And I think that's something that's got us really far, as being bold with what we want to do and who we want to speak to, and nothing's too big to reach for. And I think a lot of the time when people see activity we've done or people we've worked with, they're always quite shocked at how quickly we've managed to get to that level or get the reach we have. And it's literally just by asking or running with an idea and being creative with it. So yeah, that's probably what I enjoy the most.
For me, I'd probably say I don't think there's anything that's more valuable than kind of understanding the infrastructure of setting up a business, how equity works, how raising capital works, how literally taking something from concept to market works. Like, I'm absolutely baffled that you don't get more exposure to this at university of what being an entrepreneur is, because I feel like more people would do it. But I feel like now that we've done an investment round and we know how to kind of inject capital into the business, we know actually how to like operate a P&L and how a business works. Like, personally, I don't think there's anything more valuable. What's to stop you kind of going on and doing it like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times?
Yeah. So is that the plan then? That's the future.
One's enough, but one day I can look after for now.
Oh, so have you ever thought about giving up?
No, so I like one thing that I always tell myself, I feel like being a founder isn't about kind of like inherent skill set or intelligence. Like, for me, it's just a mindset. You have to be so resilient. When someone says no, you have to hear yes, or it's just a no for now. And as long as you're the kind of person who just continues to climb, even though like rocks are falling on you, like, it's absolutely fine. There are so many chaotic issues that myself and Alice have had that anyone would think would genuinely like kill a brand. Like, the most obscene things have happened. And as long as you've got the mentality that solutions, not problems, always, like, there will always be a workaround. That there will be. If you don't know it, someone else will know the answer. Like, there is no kind of problem too big.
Yeah, the whole thing is a learning curve, and we've been so lucky that we have each other as well to get through it. But I think it's always really encouraging when you speak to other founders and you tell them your story. They'll tell you that they've had equally as bad, and it is just, you get stronger and stronger every single time you combat one of these barriers or hurdles, and they're going to continue to come and they're going to get harder. But when you make it through, it is an amazing achievement that you look back and you think, okay, that was so stressful. But people always say the highs are highs and the lows are lows, and it's very true. But yeah, you impress yourself on a daily basis on what you can overcome.
Yeah, it's all about rewarding those highs, really recognizing and rewarding those highs, isn't it, as well?
Yeah. So that's a really hard thing to do. I don't do it enough, but
I think it's one of our worst traits. Like, I feel like because we're on a constant hamster wheel, like, I was actually thinking about this earlier. Like, I find it really difficult to just stop and be like, well done, that was a good moment. I just wake up the next day and I'm stressed about the next thing. And really, it's such a toxic habit, because you suddenly become immersed in like the negatives, and like when things go wrong, you're like upset about them for like way longer than you would be about something positive. And then you suddenly start to like associate enjoyment with complacency, and it's like a really vicious cycle. So I think it's something that we definitely need to work on it big time, because I feel like that's when founders get burnout and you actually start to stop loving the thing that you're so lucky to be able to do every day. So reflective point from me.
No, it's good about, in terms of mindset management, all the entrepreneurs, founders, senior leaders as well, have all talked about this. It's about managing your mind.